as well. But yeah, I think it's hard in general for documentaries at the moment, especially ones that are not big budget or not like entertainment, because then like, you know, I feel it's harder to get it to a wide audience. Yeah.
What was the technicality that they used to reopen the matter after the Supreme Court had already decided that immunity didn't exist? You said they used some technical thing.
Yeah, so basically the IFC argued that they had partial immunity because the case was, the location was India, so the jurisdiction should be in India. But yeah, that's how they got that partial immunity. Yeah. Although, you know, the headquarters is in the US and it's a US-based organization that financed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, somehow it just didn't get through the courts that time on that particular argument, and I think even the lawyers were shocked. Like the US lawyers were pretty shocked that that's the reason it kind of all got stalled. So.
Is that the end of the matter, or is it going to continue?
Well, they're still pushing internally just to get some kind of remedy for the fishermen, like some kind of compensation. But even that's looking very difficult. So I think the legal case probably won't continue now. But they're still working to see, like, putting pressure internally. We've used the film as well, trying to get people in the World Bank to see the film and use it as a pressure tool. But it just doesn't look very hopeful at the moment. Yeah.
My question is that given the jurisdiction was in India, so none of the activists or the people who were involved, were trying to help these fishermen, ever thought of like suing Tatas for the environmental and the health-related damage they caused?
Yeah, I think they were looking into these options, but they basically thought that they had no faith in the local courts in Gujarat, and think that there were just too many vested interests that it would have. Yeah, I mean, these companies are so strong there, and I think they just felt they just wouldn't have stood a chance. That's why the international angle was something, was somewhere that they could try to accept pressure, which they did to an extent. But it's just locally there was, they just felt they had no chance. And I think they tried a little bit, but it was pretty clear that they weren't going to get anywhere.
How did you get the fishing community to kind of trust you and your intention behind telling their story? And beyond providing a platform for them, how did you get them to see the vision behind this documentary?
Yeah, thanks. That's an important question. So I think initially when I first met them, I didn't just go cold and be like, "Hi, I'm from England, I want to film you." And I went through like activists who work with them and an NGO who were based there. And I spoke to them about, just what I was interested in doing and my background. And then they put me in touch with the fishing community. So I met them through them. So I think, that helped to an extent. And then just spending time with them, I just sat with them for a while. I was just very curious. I got to know them, and I kept on going back. So I mean, after the first visit, I went back about 5 or 6 times, and each time, you develop the relationship and get to know them more. And I'd take back photos with me because they don't have any printed photos of themselves. So each time I would just take back stills of themselves, and they treasured these things because they just didn't have them. I think just by going back, talking to them, and they had their own fight. So I mean, they had their own struggle going on. So for them, this film was like another just platform to showcase their existing struggle, I guess. And I guess they could tell just by the questions, by the fact that we were there, paying attention to all the stuff they were doing, that we were kind of on their side. So and then it definitely developed over time. Yeah, but in general, they are a very open. I did find them to be a very open community.
You could see this kind of wisdom that Abraham possesses, which is very profound. And yeah, generally the assumption is that you would not expect someone from that background who is not formally educated to have that kind of perspective. So yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's a very, such an interesting character, and so much charisma and intelligence. That was one of the reasons he was actually the first person I met there, and also one of the reasons why I continued to follow them.
The very notion of development
Yeah,
is at the root of it.
yeah,
Okay, and wherever there is a development, industrial development, the communities, the local communities are going to be displaced. They are going to be diminished, and whatever all that. So that very notion is not very strongly questioned in this, and it is assumed that there will be remedy and there will be compensation and closed cycle, open cycle, whatever cycle they do it, it will be there. The destruction will be there with the power plants and all industrial development.
yeah.
So has that been appreciated in this, or?
Yeah, again, I'm not sure I completely understand your question. So what you're asking is, why doesn't the film?
Do you believe that industrial development?
Yeah.
I just want to think that I didn't. Can I just kind of rephrase what he said, and
Yeah.
then what he says as the notion of the paradigm of development. We know what that represents, and that is anti-people and anti-environment. And he somehow feels that kind of thread is not very spelled out.
Okay. Yeah.
But I didn't feel that. I felt that you should speak more
Yeah.
than, but I didn't feel that. But
Yeah,
please.
of course. I mean, it's also the style of the film. So I specifically didn't want to have a very strong voice, like myself in the film. I didn't want to tell people what to think. And I guess it's more observational. And I think it's more powerful when you see yourself, what's happening, and then you can use your own intelligence to form your own opinions. So I didn't want to spoon feed people, say, oh, this is really bad, this is bad. The film itself shows you what's happening. Like, it makes you feel for these people, it shows you their livelihoods, it shows you everything that's at stake, what the companies do, the ruling divide, the role of global finance. So you kind of see all this unfolding, and you kind of see that there's a system behind, there's a whole global system behind why corporations have all the power and people have nothing. And it's when people come together that can be challenged. And in this case, although it didn't result in anything specifically for them, it still started to dismantle this global financial architecture that favors corporations, because it's all enshrined in law. So the very fact that international organizations have absolute immunity is one of the reasons why these organizations just can get away with anything. So it just shows kind of how these social movements, these peoples coming together, coalitions between social movements and lawyers and human rights activists can slowly start dismantling these things, and it's not going to happen overnight, and not just one struggle, but it's a cumulative thing that happens over time and in lots of localities. And it also shows how difficult that is, and so it's for you to kind of take away what you want from it, to an extent too. Yeah.
I just want to add to what you said is that every social movement has its own life, right? I mean, there are some where that awareness is there either because somebody has catalyzed that awareness and started before. Like, if you take an example of Narmada Dam, the Sardar Sarovar Dam, there was that awareness that was being built mainly by the urban, the people who went from cities and who worked with the villagers to kind of cultivate that kind of a consciousness. Here, if I know, understand right and know about this, is that there were power plants. They just started increasing in numbers. I mean, there were, and so as in fact it is said on the way that they've captured so much land. The government has already acquired so much land that there are other plans. So
In fact, I see that awareness in that local Ibrahim.
yeah,
He says
so,
that we don't want it wherever we are
yeah.
living.
So what
That awareness is lacking in the
so what
NGO,
can
which represents.
yeah? So what can they do?
No,
What-
it's not bad.
in a sense that and I in fact really it is heartbreaking the way the movement was going the way it was going, but it also, having seen all these things for so many decades, we also know that you can't romanticize people and romanticize things. That is a real life of the movement, and it is not, we can't take a kind of a moralistic stand. Why are urban people or why are international groups only doing this? People have to do what they can do, and in fact really what they achieved in terms of having that precedent of questioning the unity of the international funding architecture is itself a victory, and we don't even, most of the people don't even know about that. These are insignificant people, they're not big heroes, and what they achieved with this is something quite phenomenal. And because when they had to go there because they could not fight that battle here, whereas 20 years ago you could fight such battles in our country and have more support. So
Yeah, and I guess the film, it kind of captures the dynamics. As you said, the NGO maybe wasn't as radical as the Fishermen were. And there are these things, there are these issues that the film, the film you might notice it during the film that, you know, it raises questions. I was often thinking, well, shouldn't the fishermen themselves be leading this movement, like, more forcefully? And what was the role of the NGO? Did it hamper the movement? Did it help the movement? What happened? And sadly now the fishermen they don't have like a local leader to take this forward, and somehow I feel like they might have got even reliant on the NGO, and it could have impacted their own sort of agency. And these things are very real. They happen in social movements across the world. It's just, yeah, and this is what happened kind of there.
Do you think since these fishermen belong to certain communities or certain religious groups, that might be one of the factors why their voice was neglected since quite some time, and it's been so long since there wasn't a solution?
Yeah, I'm sure that's like in the hierarchy of things, they're very, very low down. They're on the fringes, on the margins. So probably a combination of their religion, their caste, this caste, I guess they must belong somehow within the system. The fact that they're on the coast and they deal with fish. So I think, yeah, I mean, kind of probably all these the intersectionality of all these things that probably gives them much less power in the grand scheme of things, and makes it easier kind of to ignore and push aside. But one of the recent things that's actually happening, which is new over the last few years, now these fishing settlements are being demolished by the government. So there have been a couple of demolitions, not the specific ones in the communities, but nearby, on the claims that they are illegal. Yeah. So there's definitely an increased element of fear now. Yeah.
Just some observations. Tatas are a little better known socially people rather than the Adanis and all these people. So it's really sad to listen that Tatas are also involved into this kind of a thing.
No longer true. And also, not even at the beginning.
Not even in the beginning.
Tata made money from selling opium to China.
Yeah, that was
Not
how
just
Mumbai.
Tata.
That was how
For
Mumbai
100
was
years,
made, of course.
The British produced opium in Bihar and in the western part of India, and Tata was one of the companies that made money from shipping that opium to China.
Yes, the whole actually richness of Mumbai has come from there only. All this Parsi community and the other Inanis, and they had this shipping and
all
other
the
things.
super rich have crime behind it.
It's a wrong notion that cotton made Bombay rich. Another thing,
climb behind your
some of
empire.
these fishermen are around here also, in Mumbai also.
Yeah.
There's a place called Versova,
Yes.
about 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers from here.
Yeah.
And here also they have the same problem with this, these coastal roads and other things happening.
Yeah.
Their fish is also being affected, and it is like a universal problem all around the, cities where this kind of infrastructures are taking place.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels unstoppable, you know.
And the irony is that they have to go to America for justice.
Yeah.
That's the irony.
And they're fighting
They
against-
also made money from opium, by the way. That's, British made all the money, and the American super rich also made money from opium trade. That's just one example. And then we have to go there for justice to give us.
Circular justice.
Yeah.
The screening that you had there just now, do you think you saw some kind of renewed energy, something in the people who were part of the film and the younger generation? There was some spike in the interest in.
Yeah, there was definitely that sense of pride, energy, just that remembering. It's still very early after the screening, but I hope something is, I don't know, I hope something has kind of stayed with them to give them the energy to continue to go forward and really to see the impact of what they've done, because, they had no idea, they hadn't seen the US, they hadn't seen like the, these massive powers that they did challenge. So, I imagine it will take time to process as well. But even more screenings, so I'd like all the fishing communities along there to see it properly as well. And the ideal case scenario would be bringing them all together as a united community, because at the moment they're all separated along their various funders. But I think if something that can be organized to get them united at an event, then maybe they can start talking or mobilizing or just interacting, thinking, hoping, but people have to get together for that to happen.
The biggest challenge you faced, and even to this date, the challenge you face when you have to screen this film, like Prithvi or any part of the country, any resistance you face by the government or by the far right ideology or factions, if I may say so. And would you like to share with this audience so that we can get further motivation and find ways out to support you in every possible way, like we all did today by coming up to see this screening?
Thanks. So far I haven't faced any major issues.
This film needs to be made in other language versions and shown more.
This one, yeah. You mean in other Indian languages? Yeah.
Yes, at least Hindi
Mhm.
and Gujarati maybe.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about your next film also? The film that you made after this. Tell us about the other film that you
You mean the before this one, like
the one in Gujarat.
Yeah, Even the Crows, yeah?
Yeah.
A Divided Gujarat. Yes, that was actually made in 2014. We finished making that. So we started filming in 2012, finished in 2014. And it looks at the aftermath of the Gujarat pogrom, but through a transnational perspective as well. So it looks at some of the victims. So there was a Muslim family based in Yorkshire who went on holiday to India, and most of them were murdered there. So we followed one of the survivors in the UK, and they were trying to get justice in the UK. At the same time, we followed Nishrin Jafri Hussain, whose father Ehsan Jafri was murdered. She was in the US, so we followed her. At the same time, we looked at how Hindu nationalism is supported and funded from abroad. So looking at Shakas, for example, in the UK, and in the US, a lot of Hindu nationalist organizations. And during that time was the time that Modi was running to be Prime Minister of India. So that's kind of the backdrop to all of this. And then when his role in the program was kind of being whitewashed, and there was a lot of resistance from that in India as well as in the UK and the US. So it was kind of following those threads in various the various countries. But you should watch it. It's free. It's available on YouTube, on Vimeo, I think.
We can show it here.
Available. Yeah, and we can show it. You can show it here definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask you, I happened to take like exploring the state complicity in the entire episode.
Sorry.
Complexity of the state.
Complicity of the
Complexity of the
state.
state.
For this state.
Yes. Well, so that's kind of implicit, I guess, within the film, and I guess you have to make a choice as well, like things that come up naturally in the film, things that you can observe and film, and and plus the angle was more the international fight against Tata. It wasn't so much the local fight against the government. So I guess it just had to follow. It's a decision that you have to make in terms of the story, what to follow. If I put more stuff about the state, it would have be more text, more interview based, because it would be just people explaining that. You wouldn't just follow these actions. And the other thing is, which I also hope the film highlights, is not everything what happens currently in India. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It also happens in a global system and with global history. So Modi himself is also the legacy of colonialism. It's the legacy of, it's because we live in a global financialized kind of a global capitalist system that's basically US imperialism. Why certain policies work, why liberalization happens as well to an extent, why corporations are given that power over people. So it's not all, I guess the point is that India also exists in this global system, and the state is not the only factor, and the state itself is influenced by so much history as well, and a wider global system.
Was it not made a party in the case?
Sorry?
Was Gujarat government not made a party in this case?
Party in the case. Was it a
No,
party?
it wasn't included in the case, no. Yeah.
Could you repeat the name of the other movie that you made, please?
It's called Even the Crows, The Divided Gujarat.
Thank you.
So it took you 14 years to make this film. It's a long time. And was there any point in the process that you felt the narrative is going out of your hand or something like that?
So it took 10 years to film, 4 years to edit. Not really, because I mean at some point, so within 5 years of filming, the US angle came into play. They started the case around the court case, and especially once the Supreme Court had been, it'd gone up to Supreme Court, it felt like that would be the natural kind of ending. And there were some questions about where it would go afterwards. But yeah, I think just the evolution of their fight had like a natural kind of arc to it that kind of helped, yeah.
I don't have a question, it is just an observation and sort of my takeaway from your film, which I wanted to share with you and with everyone. So first of all, thank you for persisting with it, documented over a decade and all that, because it's only in 2022 that historic sort of event occurs in all of this, right? It is a tragic story, right, which you've narrated, and a lot around us seems to be tragic these days, right? And our takeaway often from it is, you know, like, okay, respect for the heroism of those who fought, but sort of a defeatism of kind takes over as well, especially in urban context where you simply receive these things. You're not participating in it like actively yourself necessarily. But I think couple of things. It took 14 odd years of struggle to get a US court to agree that it is possible that the IFC can actually be sued. So it seems like a small thing, but just wanted to put it in perspective that it takes such a lot of struggle, such a lot of time to win that small victory. Another important thing that it requires allies, right? So Earth Rights, Bharat Bhai's organization, like Narmada Bachao, etc., etc. That is so important because even what is happening in Hasdeo, if it remains localized, it can be finished off much more easily than if it actually starts spreading and if actually people start speaking about it, etc. Especially in urban centers, especially in places like Bombay, because these places have the capacity for highlighting issues, right? So even if 50 people get together and do some halla here in Bombay, Hasdu becomes a national news suddenly, right? So even like what I wanted to say and what I was thinking about for myself also, that uh, what is happening with NREJ, for instance, today, right? It's in front of us. Next month, there are going to be calls that are going to be given for protests and for sustained movements across the country. So, like that is just an example, right? Which is there in front of all of us. That people, especially in cities, people like us, need to be really kind of enthusiastically participating in these kind of resistance efforts, because it seems like the edifice is really strong, but when power is centralized so much, it only takes a chink in the armor for things to start breaking. And so, but if we stay defeated, they've already won. So they are constantly in a mobilization mode. We should constantly be in a mode where, as soon as there is an opportunity, we should be ready to take it. Your film also kind of is part of that whole, I think, part of that whole resistance.
In time, since you probably knew, that this is such a huge, massive thing which is happening, and probably will not see the light of the how it did. Like, like it's like it probably is diminishing. Probably you will feel, oh, what am I doing it for? One thing is good that we are not among the bystanders. That we thought of making a film so that it can go to other countries where people actually need that support. So that is a victory for us. But at any point in time, did you feel that this is a battle that they're definitely not going to win? Like, and you still persisted, like 5 years, 10 years, we're talking about 15 years.
Yeah.
And that time frame. So kudos to you, but just tell us about it.
Yeah, I think like when they would have won or not, I still would have wanted to follow them. Just, at the very least to document that they struggle, they exist, this is what they do. And I think because I'd already spent some time there, I just had a responsibility towards following their story, because, they gave me the time, they were hoping for something, and I feel like there's that ethical responsibility, you have to give something back. Because you're taking stuff from them as well. But it's difficult. Sometimes I thought, oh, why am I doing this? Just, it's a lot of work, and I didn't know where it was going. But I felt like I just owed it to them, and it was just, it's just
Did you get any resistance from these companies who you were indirectly because they would have been aware that yes, someone is coming, someone is helping them, because they had their resources in the
people try to
did anything indirectly came to you saying that looks, you're doing something, it's going to the US courts and stuff like that? Did you?
So we just kept it very low profile, and also in the community it was a bit of a bubble. So they kept it quiet. I kept it quiet to film with the family. One time I was filming outside Tata, I got some hassle. But I just said I was just on the road, and I didn't give away much information. I don't think one film can create a change. I think culture in general can together, create these. I mean, films are just one part of it, the culture of resistance and these stories. I think they all kind of can work together, and in a small way. I mean, and with this particular film, so for example, we had a screening in Kenya, in Nairobi, and there was some activists from Lamu Island who were also fighting a power plant there. But they had they wanted to organize a screening for their own community, because they felt they had lots to learn and lots of information sharing. So that's kind of happening, and we're trying to get a conversation going between the two fishing communities. And so I think those kind of spaces where if the film can get accessed by the very communities who are struggling against big industries or these banks, I think that's where it can be quite useful as well.